And then he would like send them to people. I just think it's rude.
And I looked at the people who are on the list. And one of the guys is in like fourth grade class. No way. In Pennsylvania. And I'm like, no,
I didn't go there. I just
Especially nice Mexican.
But it is.
No, this is just great. Just taking the maps. They're like making space. Love it.
The first one, and all four of these stories coincide with a body of work here. But the first one is about this series right here. The first series as you walk in, and it's Don Mine, which is this trail in the San Gabriel Mountains, and it's an empty gold mine. And so this is an ode to Don Mine. We are now driving through southern New Mexico with the Roswell breeze chasing our tailpipes. White sands leading us straight to the peppered air of bats bouncing out of a hole in the ground that is Carlsbad Caverns. There is a strange sound some 1,500 feet below the fine wind-flattened sand at the bottom of Carlsbad Caverns. I've heard stories about what the sound could be. Some have said it could be your breath pushing through the vents of your lungs like a fine accordion, or the sound of blood driving itself around your body. And others have suggested that this frequency is very similar to the chain of synapse electricity snapping around your thoughts, wrapping itself around the silence of nothing and everything around you. Okay, so the second reading is behind Tuan, and it's Schweitzer Trail Camp, and it's a really old and famous trail camp in the early 1900s. And this is Ode to Schweitzer Trail Camp. My Aunt Vera is the youngest on my mom's side. She was extremely small when she was born, and they made a makeshift bed for her out of a boot box. During winter of her first year, she would sleep underneath the iron stove at night, where the slow glowing embers radiated above her, burning a slow red color into her hair and freckles. The third story here is this bridge to nowhere, which is in Azusa, and there's remnants of like an old road that's been washed away from a flash flood. And then there's this bridge at the end of this trail. I mean, it's between two caverns, so it just sits there. You can walk across it. It's really amazing, really sturdy. So this is Ode to the Narrows. And so the story goes, it was a night where the moonlight frosted through the windows. The iron stove was slowly cooking down its embers to an ashy soup. Everyone was asleep. My Aunt Teresa, Aunt Margaret, Aunt Vera, Aunt Dolores, Uncle Ted, Uncle Manuel, and my mom all shared a bedroom. My grandfather had a room to himself. Outside, the sounds of beetles rubbing their wings stopped, and my Aunt Teresa was awakened by shuffling coming from the dining room. There in the bedroom doorway was a man so big that he couldn't stand upright inside the house. He was hunched over on all fours, crawling through the kitchen, squeezing himself through the doorways. My Aunt Teresa yelled, waking up the house and frightening the man, who began to crawl for the front door. My grandfather grabbed a shotgun and started for the bedroom. Everyone stood in the doorway, my grandfather pushing forward, in front, pointing the shotgun into the night, and watched as this man casually stepped over the 5-foot barbed wire fence and galloped away. The next morning, the sheriff came to the ranch to file a report on the incident. He stood with my grandfather around the giant oval imprints made in the wet dirt. The footprints were nearly 2.5 feet long. The sheriff glanced over in the direction of the prints, tipped the brim of his hat up just above his forehead, and with a pointed finger followed the tracks towards Tucumcari Mountain. The last story is a really amazing trail all the way up lake in Pasadena, and it's a Sam Merrill trail. On top of this trail, they built a hotel. It was a really famous resort where you could take this elaborate railway system that was built at the time up to this hotel. So this is Ode to Echo Mountain. My Uncle Ted is the oldest on my mom's side. He lives on a farm in Tucumcari, New Mexico, and decided that he was destined to be a dumpster diver. At first I thought that meant he was a garbage collector, but he explained further that he searched through garbage for treasures and lost valued items to revive. He showed us his rock collection, imprints of fossilized crustaceans that once attached themselves to what is now Tucumcari Mountain, and some dusted Navajo arrowheads left over from a short stay near the canal. What is it about these artifacts, I wondered? The way that they have become forgotten, abandoned sites, objects that have lost their direction, history that has collapsed in against itself with thick layers of pressed time, creating a disfigured story of how they came to be. This is to all those that have stayed away for all these years. My Uncle Ted, surrounded by piles of quiet mesquite, and I can see him right now, lying on the warm floor, listening closely to nothing and everything that surrounds us.
Like that one. No, this is great. Just taking the maps. They're like making space. Love it.
Damn, man.